I was at Jerry Garcia's very last Grateful Dead show. I had made no plans for what I was going to do when the tour was over, so I'm wandering around the parking lot, wondering where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do, when I hear this guy barking, "Rides to the Rainbow Gathering, $30. I said, "What's a rainbow gathering?" He tried and tried to explain it to me, but I had no idea what he was talking about until he said there'll be free food there. There'll be free food? He said everybody eats at a rainbow gathering. Nobody goes hungry. I already knew from years on the road that finding food was the hardest part. I had already counted my money. I knew I had $32 in my pocket. So I pulled out my money, put $2 back in my pocket, gave him the rest. Got in the back of his pickup truck. He had this silver Airstreamer style camper top installed. He told me there was a ferret in there. The ferret lived there and that I was just a guest. As soon as we have 8 riders, we'll be leaving. We drove all day, all night, halfway across the country to Ithaca, New York. That's when I found out this rainbow gathering was in the middle of a national forest and we had to hike into the woods about 10 miles to get to it. As we were hiking in, this guy Dan, one of the other riders, explained to me that the first rule of rainbow, no money allowed. I didn't understand such a concept. I was born into this money world. Somebody had to pay a doctor in a hospital just for me to be alive. How do you survive without money? How do you get food? How do you get clothes? How do you get a safe place to sleep at night? I didn't understand the concept. We finally get into this gathering. There's a banner tied to the trees. It's got a rainbow painted on it. It says, "Welcome home." The idea is to get away from Babylon, man's city. There were no cars, no buildings, no roads, no stores, no electricity. Flashlights and radios were not allowed. The idea is to get back into the wilderness, into the jungle, where the very first human tribe came from, home. There was a sister there. She had a 5-gallon bucket of rice sitting at her feet. People would line up and hold out their plate, and she would put a scoop of rice on their plate. At a rainbow gathering, you're supposed to bring your own dishes, but I didn't have any dishes. I ate at gas stations. I didn't need dishes. So I did what some other people were doing. I found a mallow leaf. I picked a mallow leaf. The thing was bigger than my head. And I get in line. Now, maybe it's just because I was hungry. I hadn't eaten all day. I hadn't eaten all night. I walked 10 miles into the woods on an empty stomach, but she was one of the most beautiful girls I've ever seen. Maybe I was just hungry. She was glowing as she smiled and put a scoop of rice onto my mallow leaf. I smiled back. I said thank you as I nodded to her. I sat down on the ground, kind of like I'm sitting now, Indian style, I believe it's called. And as I picked up some of that rice with my fingers and put it into my mouth, it suddenly clicked. This is how a man's supposed to eat. Here I was, sitting on God's green earth, under God's blue sky, eating the food that God grew for me, surrounded by these strangers that somehow I knew loved me. How do you know someone loves you? They feed you. You are born instinctively knowing that your mother loves you because she feeds you. It was then that I wanted to find out everything I could about this rainbow gathering. Who are these people? How does this work? How is this possible? I made my way to Main Circle. There were a couple hundred people sitting on the ground in a circle. You could look out and see each and every one of them. Nobody could sneak up on us because we had eyeballs in every direction. Every night at sunset, the kitchens send runners to Main Circle with 5-gallon buckets of food. They walk the inside of the circle feeding the people. There were people from all walks of life. There were Hare Krishnas, there were Buddhists, there's a Jesus camp. There were atheists and pagans all sitting down together, breaking bread in the spirit of peace and love. If you had told me about this, I would not have believed it was possible, but I was there. I witnessed it. I saw it with my own eyes. I bring this up in my Apostle Joe series for a reason. Rainbow works because it is tribalism, and Jesus was a tribalist. I hear people say that Jesus was a socialist because he said this, or Jesus was a capitalist because he said that. No, Jesus was a tribalist. Jesus preached tribalism. Just look at the Revelation where he addresses the 12 tribes of Israel. The Sermon on the Mount are instructions on how to live when you are in a tribe. When you are in a tribe, medicine man treats everyone for free. If a man needs a house, the tribe builds him one. If someone is hungry, you feed them. That is the correct system for man to live in. Every other system of government that has ever been created, ever been built, has collapsed within a couple hundred years. Man will try this government, it collapses. Man tries this government, it collapses. Man tries this system, it collapses. But yet there are still Amazonian tribes living in the rainforest under the same system of government they were under 50 some thousand years ago. Tribalism is the only form of government that has ever proven itself to actually work. And in the next episode, we're going to explore this rainbow gathering as a working example of tribalism in modern times.